All right, so today we are going to look at solving one-step equations again, but we are going to be looking at solving them with multiplication and addition. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of each of those types of problems. So first we'll look at the ones where it's a multiplication problem to start. So something like 4x equals 24. All right, so the first thing we always do is draw our line. And then we want to isolate x. And so to isolate x in this case, we want to look at what's on the same side as the x. In this case, it's a 4. And the 4 is right next to the x. And remember, when the number is right next to the variable, it means we are multiplying. And to go ahead and reverse that, we need to do the opposite or use the inverse operation. And the inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I want to divide by the 4 to get rid of it. And remember, 4 divided by 4 just gives me 1, so it leaves me with a 1x. But because I divided this side by 4, I've also got to divide the other side by 4. And 24 divided by 4 will give me 6. So my answer to this case is x equals 6. And if I would plug that back in to where the x is, 4 times 6 does equal 24. So I've done this correctly. All right, so another example, let's do negative 48 equals negative 8x. All right, so we're doing the same thing here. We want to isolate the variable x, but we have a negative here. No big deal. We just need to make sure that that negative is also gotten rid of. We do not want to find out what negative x is. We want to find out what x is. So we want to divide by whatever's in front of the x. This is actually negative 8 times x. So we can divide by the negative 8. Okay, and because we divided that side by negative 8, we got to do it to the other side. Negative 8 divided by a negative 8, a negative divided by a negative gives you a positive. So that just leaves me with a positive 1x. And negative 48 divided by negative 8 is going to give me a positive 6. So x equals 6, and if I plugged that back into here, where the x is, it would become negative 8 times 6. And negative 8 times 6 is negative 48. You could test that with your calculator. On this first assignment that I'm going to give you today, it's not going to have negatives, and then I'll probably give you another one, maybe at the end of the week, with just 10 problems that has the negatives in it. So we'll start with the positives, make sure you got that down, then we'll look at adding some negatives in. All right? So the other thing you might see is a problem that has division like this, x over 5 equals 10. All right, so on this one, we're actually going to draw our line, and now we're taking x and dividing it by 5. So to get rid of the 5, we have to do the opposite. And since this is division, x divided by 5, the opposite of division would be multiplication. So we want to multiply by 5. And remember, this is the same thing as multiplying by 5 over 1, and what this does is it leaves a 5 on the top and a 5 on the bottom, and a 5 over a 5 just gives me a 1, okay? So when you're doing this, when you're multiplying by 5, you're saying, now I've got a 5 on the top and a 5 on the bottom, that equals 1, so it's just left me with 1x. But I still got to multiply this by 5, and 10 times 5 gives me 50. And if I were to plug in this 50 here for the x, that would become 50 divided by 5. And 50 divided by 5 does equal 10. So I did that correctly. You might have something like this. Okay. Oh, we're not going to do another multiplication one. Let's do this. I'm sorry. Let's do x over negative 3. Forgot we were doing division there. So now we're going to draw our line, and we want to isolate x. Right now we have x divided by negative 3 on one side of the equation. We want to get rid of that negative 3, so we want to do the inverse operation, or the opposite. And the inverse or opposite of division would be multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by, and I want to get rid of the negative too, so I want to multiply it by negative 3. Now it's in essence saying I've got negative 3 on the top and negative 3 on the bottom. And negative 3 divided by negative 3 just gives me a positive 1 and leaves me with just x there. I also have to multiply this side by negative 3. 12 times negative 3 would give me negative 36. So my answer is going to be negative 36. So when I plug that into here, and I take negative 36 divided by negative 3, in my calculator, negative 36 divided by negative 3 would give me a positive 12, so I did this correctly. So your homework is going to be a Google form that's also on the Google Classroom along with this video. And again, like you did with the solving equations with addition and subtraction, just enter the number as the answer. Don't put any spaces in. Just enter, I don't think there's going to be any negatives, so just enter the number with no spaces and don't put like x equals, okay? So if the answer is 10, just type in 10, and it should automatically grade that for you and give you the correct grade. All right, this is going to be due, I think I'm going to have this due Friday morning. So I'll put that on, that'll be out there on this Google Classroom with the assignment when it's due. And if you guys have any questions, give me an email or a comment through Google Classroom. All right, guys, stay safe. Take care. Bye.